What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to MLB Swing for the Fences Baseball DFS show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. It's Tuesday, August 26th, NFL season fast approaching, but not quite here yet. Got a big slate tonight, 12-game Tuesday slate. And one of the few remaining slate stats that baseball takes center stage. We do have, of course, a monster contest out there from our partners over at DraftKings. Expensive one, $3,333 entry. Congratulations to anybody watching the show with one of those tickets. I unfortunately struck out last night on the Ticket Palooza, so I won't be in there. But I know you will be, Stats. You got some action going tonight. I'm sure you're dialed in for this baseball show. How are you doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, doing well, man. I actually cooked dinner a little earlier today, so I'll be able to just heat it up after the lock of MLB, and made some chicken cutlets, kind of like it's a big Northeast thing. Tommy Cutlets, made some chicken cutlets. I'm ready to go. It's a good night whenever I have chicken cutlets.
Love chicken cutlets and love this slate as well. So we got a lot to talk about. You've got a lot to do after the show to get ready for the show. We'll, of course, have the Boom Report up, I assume, shortly following the show. Everything you need over at Run Pure Sports for anyone watching and wants or needs additional help with DFS baseball or anything DFS betting wise. We've got everything you need over at Run Pure Sports. So check us out. Football season around the corner, going to be an awesome season with Run Pure Sports. I know personally, Stats, I hope that NFL Boom Report is still on the table. Have you been?
That is a thing, man. It is ready. It is ready to go. So what do we got? The season starts not this weekend, coming up the following. So we'll have it probably Wednesday, Thursday. I'll post that thing, and then we'll update it as the week goes on.
Awesome. Really looking forward to that. The Baseball Boom Report has been fantastic, I know, for many members, many of whom used that Boom Report to get tickets into the night. So big night for RPS in the baseball streets. Bigger weekends ahead with NFL coming. But with that, let's jump into this slate. 12 games. We start off in the Bronx in New York for the Yankees and the Nationals. Luis Gil going for the Yankees here. Has made 4 starts, has looked kind of up and down a little bit. The stuff is impressive when you watch Luis Gil pitch. The results have been kind of mediocre. 8K tonight. Pretty good matchup against the Nationals. I didn't end up getting to Luis Gil myself, but I could see a case being made for him. So I don't hate Luis Gil here. I think he's capable of a big game, certainly. And then kind of the same thing on the other side. Mackenzie Gore, he was looking like one of the best fantasy pitchers of the season. He was one of the best fantasy pitchers of the season for the first half of the year. But it has gone south in a hurry for Gore. He did have a huge outing 3 starts ago in San Francisco, which, kind of explains that outing a little bit. But the walks have been up. He's always had home run issues. He's actually given up double-digit home runs in 4 of his last 7 games, 2 home runs in 4 of those games. So he's been hittable. We know the Nationals bullpen behind him isn't any good. And I think we start off with a pretty interesting spot here. I'm looking at the Yankees a little bit, Stats. Gore, even when he's good, he does give up a fair bit of power and also pretty hittable by lefties. In fact, slightly worse against lefties over the last couple of seasons overall, which of course pretty good for this Yankees lineup, I guess, which did go pretty right-handed heavy, much more so than usual. But it's hard to know what to do with Gore. I'm kind of confused as to why he's fallen off so much. But I do think the Yankees as a contrarian stack. We'll pull up ownership here. I assume they'll be low owned. I think they're interesting right off the bat. They're mostly what I'm personally looking at in this game. What are you doing with the Yankees and Nationals to kick this slate off?
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with the pitching with Gil's 5.5 strikeouts in the betting markets, 15.5 outs. So not really looking for him to go too deep in this game, at least in the betting market. And Gore, 6.5 strikeouts, juice to the under, and 16.5 outs. So they're not really looking for either of these pitchers to go very deep. On my model, I've got Gil at the 11th option with Gore as the 8th best option. Gore's going to give you, he's got the strikeout upside, right? So he's going to be one of the better pitchers on this slate, strikeout per inning. But like you said, he can give up the long ball, also walks a lot of batters, which is a bad combination as far as real life goes. Not a great combination in fantasy, but sometimes you can offset that with a lot of strikeouts. But what it does like for me is this Yankee lineup. Like I think you said that. I like the Yankees here, and I do think it's a nice contrarian play. Show up high in the tournament edge. They do often. Last night was one of those nights. Like them on. We liked them there. We like the Dodgers with them. Both had a pretty decent night. And I think the Yankees here again, like you said, I think the ownership's going to be fairly low. And I love taking these Yankee home run bats with low ownership against a pitcher who, like we said, can give up the long ball. So I do like the Yankees bats. I like someone who's Washington bats also. I really like this game offensively. There's almost every batter in this lineup. I pretty much would play just about everyone in this on both sides in 5-man stacks. Prefer the Yankees, but I do like Washington's side as well.
Makes sense to me. I will say two of the Yankees bats, looking at Sabre ownership here, Goldschmidt and Rosario, projected to be their highest owned, Goldschmidt, and third highest owned in Rosario. They do have pinch hit risk. Rice has been on fire. I think he could come in for Goldschmidt potentially midway through this game, and in Rosario would kind of expect him to come out as well. So some concern for those guys, but overall, I think a high upside spot for the Yankees. And certainly higher upside than the ownership would indicate. So I'm with you in on these Yankees bats as a contrarian stack, and I'm kind of with you on the pitching. I think they're okay options if you're playing a bunch of lineups. If you're, for most people watching playing just a few lineups, I think you can pass on these pitchers for the most part, neither super high up on either of our lists on this slate. Let's go over to Toronto for the Blue Jays and the Twins. Two pretty mediocre righties going here. Chris Bassett going for the Blue Jays, coming off strong start against Pittsburgh. I believe got his season high in strikeouts, tied his season high in strikeouts in that one with 10. Certainly wouldn't expect 10 strikeouts from Chris Bassett really anytime. Certainly not tonight against the Twins. It is a pretty good matchup for Chris Bassett. Obviously, this Twins lineup pretty watered down. Matt Wallner was a hero for me last night with the double dong, and I do like the Twins lefties again against Bassett, who's got some pretty severe righty-lefty splits. So Larnach, I'm getting really sick of Brooks Lee buying in on his value every night. Doesn't seem to come through very often for me, at least. But then, Matt Wallner looks pretty good. And that's pretty much it for the Twins, just chasing home runs mostly against Bassett from the left side. Bailey Ober has pitched okay this last 3 starts, been under 90 pitches in each of them, though. Somewhat concerning, but the strikeouts have been decent. Doesn't walk a lot of guys. But, people that have been following baseball, watching this show, we don't really take many pitchers against this Blue Jays team. You do get pretty good price on Ober at 6,600, but due to the lack of strikeout upside and just his, general mediocreness, I guess, he didn't end up making the cut for me either. Seen some love for Chris Bassett. I do like him a little bit better, but 8,400 for him feels kind of at the high end of his, pricing spectrum where he ends up. So I'm kind of lukewarm on Bassett too. Neither of these guys super high on my list. They do get a very friendly pitchers umpire for people looking to break the tie. Mentioned I like the Twins lefties, and then I do think you can go to a full Blue Jays stack if you want against Ober in the Twins bullpen. Blue Jays obviously a team that doesn't hit a ton of home runs, but they do put the ball in play. They are capable of stringing together some big rallies. They do have some guys, Barger, Vlad, Springer, who profile, I think, pretty well against a fly ball, home run prone pitcher in Bailey Ober. So more interest for the Twins one-offs for me, and then more interest for the Blue Jays full stack. Where'd you end up stats with Blue Jays and Twins here?
All right. So, Ober 3.5 Ks is the prop, 17.5 on the outs with Bassett, 5.5 Ks on his props, 17.5 as well on his pitching outs. I've got Bassett as my 5th best option on the night. At the 8,400, we're projecting, or at least Sabre is about 20 some odd %, something like that, ownership. Yeah, I mean, perhaps a little high. I mean, maybe I'll be a little bit under on that. I'm not going to have any interest in Ober at all. So I've got him as 18th option. Just not enough strikeouts there for me, even at the low price tag. So I do have some interest in Bassett, however. And then on the offensive side, you basically named the three guys I really like on Toronto. It's Springer, Guerrero, and Barger. Those are the three guys I'd really want to be playing. Maybe Bichette as well. And that's kind of it for me. So I really like them more secondary stacks on the Toronto side. Minnesota, they'd be secondary stacks as well, a little bit cheaper if you want to play a Wallner or Outman or at just 2,200. I don't mind that. Larnach at 3,600 as well, but I don't really like I think you like the bats on the whole maybe a little bit more in this game than I do. I'm just going to have a little bit more Toronto in the secondary stacks, and I'm going to sprinkle in some twin bats, but not a whole lot for me offensively or pitching wise in this game.
Yeah, I'm mostly the same. I am intrigued, like I said, about those Twins lefty power. I mean, really low ownership on these guys. Those Twins bats that you want. I mean, Larnach 5%, Wallner 4%, Lee, if you want to buy into that, 3%. I do think those guys are pretty good one-offs at those plays. And then Toronto, it is a 12-game slate, so all ownerships are suppressed a little bit. But yeah, sub 10% for the entire Blue Jays stack against Ober and the Twins bullpen feels decent to me. But I'm with you, not among my very top stacks today. So we'll mix those guys in a little bit, but not going crazy with either the Twins or Toronto. And to me, 22% or whatever it is, 20% Bassett on this slate, that feels high. So glad to hear you're not going crazy with that one. Not going to make the cut for me, Mr. Bassett. Let's go to Citi Field for the Mets and the Phillies. We've got pitching matchup, two lefties here, two pretty good lefties. Sean Manaea going for the Mets. He looked fantastic for most of his last start against the Nationals. Fell apart in the fifth inning, but did get 8 strikeouts over 4 2/3 in that one. He's looked pretty good to me overall. I know the results have been mediocre for Manaea, but I do kind of have some faith in him going forward. So I like Manaea a little bit as a somewhat contrarian option, 15 to 20%. It looks like on Manaea at 7,600. Gets to face really the two big threats in the Phillies lineup, Harper and Schwarber. We'll have to face Manaea left versus left. So I do think he can fare decently well in those matchups. And then the rest of this lineup, it's been a little bit disappointing. I think I saw the Phillies have scored the 20th most runs, something crazy like that in baseball for the season. So maybe a little bit of an overrated offense overall. And then also you get a good park to pitch in here, right? Our friends over at Ballpark Bell, they've got Citi Field rated as the best pitcher's park tonight, which kind of further increases my interest in Manaea. A little bit of interest in Luzardo, too, who's coming off a brilliant start himself, 12 strikeouts over 6 innings against the Mariners. He's a bit of a boomer bust pitcher. The strikeouts are often there for him. Is a little bit prone to blow up starts, but yeah, I mean, tough matchup, of course, for Luzardo. I was pretty high on Sanchez, fellow lefty for the Phillies last night. That did not work out. Could be better for Luzardo here. I think he's an interesting contrarian option at 10 to 15%. Where'd you end up with Phillies and Mets stats?
Yeah, I agree with you. I like both of these pitchers, and I think if the ownership that we've got here on Saber is close to where it's at, I'll be over on both of these guys. So I'm looking at the bats, like you said, always a good ballpark, Citi Field, and we've got, if you look at the prop market, Luzardo 5.5 Ks, 16.5 on his outs, 5.5 for Manaea, and 16.5 on his outs as well. He's juiced to the over on both of these guys, about the same lines on their strikeouts, juiced to the over the 5.5. So they come in, I believe the third and fourth, Luzardo, Manaea in that order for me, pitching wise tonight. And I'll be over the market on both these guys if the market is where Saber has it. So I think getting into the mid 20s up to 30, I think is the way to go for me on this slate. That, with that said, if I'm going to take some bats, I actually prefer a couple of the Met bats a little bit more. Lindor and Alonso, to be exact. I really don't want to get too heavy on the bats on the whole in this game. Maybe just like I said, some secondary stacks. You could play some Philly bats as well, but I'm going to probably just be primarily pitching on this one, and I'm going to kind of stay away from the bats.
I'm with you on that. People that if you're in on the Phillies, if you're not a Manaea believer, the ownership on these guys is about as low as you're ever going to see. I'm sure, whenever you get the Sabres super low ownership numbers, they always come in a little bit higher than those numbers. I mean, Schwarber, I'm sure he'll be higher than under 1% that Sabre has him at, but it'll be a very low number on Schwarber and the rest of these Phillies bats. So a contrarian stack, if you want to go in that direction, I'm personally probably not going to do it much, but I think that makes sense. And, you can say the same thing about the Mets. I mean, Alonso at sub 5%, Lindor sub 5%, Vientos is still cheap, crushing the ball, probably 2 to 3%, something like that. So I think both of these offenses make some sense as big contrarian options, but that's kind of what you're buying is the low ownership, because these guys are still expensive despite the tough matchup. So you'd be playing against the park and some pretty good pitching, but maybe the microscopic ownership numbers make them at least a little bit more appealing. Let's go to Chicago for the Royals and the White Sox. We've got, neither of these pitchers going to be owned at all. Michael Lorenzen for Kansas City, just not a strikeout arm. Guessing his props in around 4 for strikeouts. He's been okay recently. I actually think he's a little bit better play than the ownership number would suggest at 1%. I still don't think I'm probably going to get there, but it is a pretty good matchup. I know Chicago has been better, especially since the call up of Colson Montgomery, who is a very good play, I think, in this game. Not going to be on a ton of White Sox otherwise, I don't think, but they are super cheap and have been swinging a little bit better bats. And of course, a very winnable matchup against Lorenzen. Could maybe be talked into some White Sox here, but it's the Royals side that I'm really interested in stats. They get Martin Perez, who admittedly owned my ass last time out. I was extremely high on the Braves. Did not work out. 5 1/3 shutout innings for Perez over 74 pitches. I just don't see it with Perez, though. It's been a long time since he's been good. I think this is the worst version of Perez that we've seen. And I'm going back to the well with this Royals team. Makes a lot of contact, swinging pretty good bats for the most part. And most of the guys you want, I think there's a clear 5 for the Royals. Garcia, Witt, Vinny P, who's been on fire, Salvador Perez, and India. I'll pass on the pinch hit risk, which is pretty much the rest of the lineup, Grichuk, Lofton, Frazier, and Tolbert. But that 5 of the top 6 bats for the Royals look good. I love the initial matchup, of course, against Perez. Bad bullpen behind him. Decent place to hit in right field. And, reasonable price tags for the most part outside of Bobby Witt. So count me in on this Royal stack. I'll be betting on a regression game from Martin Perez after pitching well last time out against the Braves. Stats, where'd you end up with White Sox and Royals here?
Yeah, I don't really love either of these pitchers. Perez is 3.5 Ks in the prop market, 15.5 outs. With Lorenzen, 4.5 Ks, 15.5 outs. He's juiced to the under on his K prop. So, not going to be too heavy. I'm not going to have any, let alone being too heavy. I won't have any Lorenzen or Perez in this matchup, which would lend you to believe I'd like the bats, but just not enough pop in this in either of these lineups for me to really like bats either. So I'm really Xing out the entire game. I'm not playing anyone from I'm not playing any bats, and I'm not playing any pitching in this one. So it's going to be a real quick analysis for me. So I just think there's some better spots on the slate. I'm going to stick to those, and I'm going to be off of all these guys.
You got me concerned about my Royals love stats. I'm not going to lie, but I think I'm sticking to it here with the Royals against Martin Perez. But I get it. A lot of spots to go to tonight. Can't play everything, but personally, I'm gonna stick with this Royals team against Perez and the White Sox bullpen. But we'll move on to Milwaukee, another park that is going to play fairly pitcher friendly in this one. Ballpark Pals actually got it rated as the second best overall pitcher's park tonight, but that might not slow down the Brewers, who seem to get the job done more often than not. Tonight they get Brandon Pfaadt, who is another one of the pitchers. I'd compare him somewhat similarly to Chris Bassett in that you really want lefties, and mostly just lefties, against Brandon Pfaadt. The D-backs do have some good ones. Turang, Yelich, you can go to Frelick if you want to. Probably stays in there against when a lefty comes in. So I think the Brewers are somewhat interesting despite, not a great park to hit in. I'm assuming they'll go low owned as well. And then for Milwaukee, they'll go with rookie Jacob Misiorowski. Has incredible stuff, but very wild and it seems to me very blow up prone. Just not maturity, maybe not the right word, but if you watch him pitch, you can just kind of tell he's like kind of all over the place, just in terms of not only his pitches, but mannerisms and stuff. So I do actually think he's pretty blow up prone. I don't know if enough so to get me on the Diamondbacks. Might need to dig in a little bit more there to come up with my final answer, but I don't think I'm playing Misiorowski despite pretty high strikeout upside. They've just been really cautious with his pitch counts. Has only made it more than 5 innings twice in 10 starts, and 9,500 obviously is a steep price tag to pay. So maybe could be talked into some Misiorowski, but I actually think the Diamondbacks bats could be, assuming they're as low owned as I think they will be, could be interesting plays here. Very extremely low ownership on the D-backs. Now I'm a little bit intrigued. And then, I do like the Brewers side. Looks like about 5% across the board for them, which feels fair given how good they've been. What do you see stats, Brewers and D-backs here?
Yeah, so Pfaadt, I have no interest in. Got him as the 19th option. Just not a lot of Ks there. When we look in the prop market on these guys, Pfaadt is 4.5 Ks, 17.5 outs, juice to the under. And Misiorowski, 5.5 Ks, that's juice to the over. I think the only question you have there, I mean, it's not terrible. 9,500, it's a little hefty for that strikeout number. And the real concern is just how deep he goes, like you said. So over on Pinnacle, no market on his outs. So we'll see. The control, a problem. I think he's probably maybe the best stuff on the entire slate. So the upside is always going to be there. He can get a lot of strikeouts. We're looking at like 1.2 Ks per inning. So if he, over 5 innings, maybe we could get 7 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts. But I just don't know how deep you go. And with a pitcher who's kind of can be a little bit wild, also get you strikeouts. That means high pitch counts. That means not very deep into the game. So there's a cap on him. I think the single-digit ownership that is being projected over on Saber is justified. I'll be kind of sprinkling them in it as well. So I don't like the bats in this one. This is just another game that I can't really get my head around playing too many of the bats here. So I could see. I could see what you're saying here. Maybe playing some of the, maybe playing Milwaukee bats, just, against a pretty weak pitcher. Maybe we get, it's not the best of ballparks. I'm trying to give you a little reason. Maybe you could play some Milwaukee, but for me personally, I'm going to be Xing them out, and I'll just have a small amount of Misiorowski on this one.
Yeah, it makes sense there. I'm not going crazy with this game, but as contrarian plays, I do think both these offenses are at least a little bit interesting. And you must have a lot of interest in the second half of the slate stats, because so far, not a ton of love for the bats. Of course, get to the second half of this slate in a moment. Before we do, good time to remind everybody, hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. Helps us bring you guys these shows all baseball season long, free of charge here on YouTube. So hit that like button for us. And anyone that wants to upgrade their DFS betting game, head over to runpuresports.com. Use promo code RPS15. That'll get you 15% off your first payment. Football season and everything else, college football, of course, right around the corner. So great time to join over at Run Pure Sports. Go ahead and check us out. I think you'll like what you see. Let's go to St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Two righties going here. Andre Payante going for the Cardinals. Really low strikeout arm. Doesn't, gets a lot of ground balls. That's about all you can say that's good about Payante. Good matchup, of course, here too against Pittsburgh. I don't think that's enough to get me on the Andre Payante train. And I have seen some love for Mitch Keller out there, looking at ownership. Yeah, actually, at least per Sabre, Payante getting more ownership than Keller, which I think I would lean the Keller side of that argument. So a little bit of interest in Mitch Keller for me, just mostly just a pricing and matchup play. Obviously, good place to pitch as well in Busch Stadium. So yeah, I think Keller's okay. Payante, I just don't think the strikeouts are going to be there, but he does get to throw 90 plus pitches pretty much every time out and does get a good home matchup against the Pirates. So maybe underselling Payante a little bit. What do you say stats on Payante, Keller, and the rest of this game?
Yeah, I mean, I get if I had to play both of these pitchers, I guess I would have maybe a little bit more Keller than Payante, but I'm not really don't have much interest in either one of these pitchers. Again, it's a strikeout thing. Just not anticipating a whole lot of strikeouts from either one of these guys. They're both 4.5 Ks in the prop market, both juiced pretty similarly to the under. And then Payante is 17.5, as is Keller, 17.5 on the pitching outs. Keller with a little bit more juice to the over on that side. So, yeah, not a lot of interest. I've got them as the 12th and 14th pitchers, respectively, Keller and Payante on the slate. So again, though, bats, it's not a game that I'm all too excited about playing bats in it. So I've got maybe listen, O'Neal Cruz always a strong option, maybe as a one-off play. You've got really not much else that I like. I'd like to kind of give you a few plays, but I just don't like much in this game either. So there's a few games that I'm really targeting, and this one's not it.
I'm going to join you on the fading bats in this one. Don't see a ton to love, not in this park. Not a lot of power on either side, and I just think there are a ton of better spots, including some even lower-owned spots that we've talked about so far. So pretty much out on Pittsburgh and St. Louis. We can keep moving to Texas and the Angels. And here we have, I think, a very interesting game. You've got Kikuchi, Yusei Kikuchi going for the Angels. Kind of a boomer bust type of pitcher. When he's on his game stats, the strikeouts can come in a hurry for Kikuchi. He's got a lot of 7, 8, even two or three double-digit strikeout games on his ledger this season. Overall has been pretty good. Gets a park upgrade here, moving from Angel Stadium to Texas, one of the better places to pitch on this slate, and gets a Texas lineup that has, frankly, a lot of strikeouts to be had for Kikuchi if he is on his game here. So count me in on Kikuchi, one of my favorite pitching plays on the slate. Looks like he'll definitely get some ownership, but to me, I'm seeing 9%, around 10% for Kikuchi. That feels too light, what the field is playing with Kikuchi. So I'll definitely be over the field, probably on 20 to 40% of my lineups. Kikuchi, again, that's limited lineups, but still one of my favorite pitching plays here. Corbin has kind of returned to what I think most people, including myself, expected him to be at the beginning of the year. Obviously, has had a real rough run as one of the best pitchers to stack against in all baseball over the past 3 or 4 seasons. Gets an Angels team here that has a ton of power swinging from the right side. Also has some speed. Nobody over 5K in the lineup. And Corbin has had 4 bad starts in a row, gives up power, gets hit hard by righties, and you can run on him a little bit too, some speed in this Angels lineup. So, yeah, I'm looking at this Angels lineup, specifically the top 4, but the rest of the lineup's super cheap, including Nico Cavadas, who's min price, lefty, yes, but probably gets the whole game to play, given that he's starting against the lefty. I think he's one of the better punt options on this slate if you need one. And I'm in on the Angels overall here. I don't think I'm going to get too much Texas. Obviously, pretty high on Kikuchi. So all Angels here for me. I like the Kikuchi, and I frankly like pairing the Angels a little bit with Kikuchi. You know, if you hit with Kikuchi pitching well, shutting down the Rangers, and the Angels stack going off against Corbin, could be one of those games that gets lopsided in a hurry. Those can lead to a lot of runs in the second half of the game. So yeah, all Angels here for me. Where do you stand stats on Angels and Rangers?
Yeah, I mean, Kikuchi does have upside. He can get you a bunch of strikeouts. So I do like him. He's going to be in the mix, and I like him more than maybe the Sabre projected ownership is, but maybe a little less than you. So maybe I'm in that 15% ballpark. Looks like you're going to go a little heavier on him, but definitely don't. I don't dislike it. Corbin, on the other hand, I think we've got a target against, and it's back to the Corbin that we know and love. So I really like the Angel bats quite a bit. One of my stronger stacks, I think, on the entire slate tonight is going to be the Angels. There's not many bats in this lineup that I don't necessarily like. Maybe Moore and Teodosio are the two least favorite. Outside of that, like you said, you get to throw in a 2K punt option there, Cavadas, who rates out fairly well at that price tag. So I like the bats here for the Angels. I think you can play some Texas bats if you want to go a little contrarian. If you think maybe Kikuchi gets a little bit more ownership than we are projecting, I think Garcia, Langford, and then you can play Freeman two positions at just 2,200. Is not a bad savings either. So I really, really like the Angel bats, but I'm going to have probably a little bit more Texas bats than you will, and a little less Kikuchi ownership than maybe you will. Although I do like him, he is my fifth best or sixth best pitching option on this entire slate. Good strikeouts, and like I said, the upside is there for him. We could he could definitely go off, but I think there's some potential that they can bang him around as well. So I think we're getting low ownership, certainly on the Texas side. And I think the ownership on these Angel bats should be higher than at least what we're projecting. So I like the Angels quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, what do we got for Angels ownership? Yeah, around, depending on who you're looking at, 5 to 15% or so. That feels fair to me for what I think is one of the highest upside stacks on this slate in the Angels with all the power, speed matchup that they have. And don't sleep on Travis d'Arnaud. I know the numbers overall this season look bad. The metrics for him against lefty pitchers still look very, very strong for d'Arnaud. So I do like him as a punt catcher, 3,100, even if you're not on the rest of the Angels team. But like you said, I do like the entire Angels lineup outside of Christian Moore, and Teodosio, who themselves are both under 3K. So can't be that bad of plays. But yeah, give me these Angels bats, specifically the top half of the lineup, plus d'Arnaud. I think are in very strong spots against Patrick Corbin and that Texas bullpen. Out we go to Houston for the Astros and the pace-eating Colorado Rockies. Interesting spot here for Hunter Brown, one that I've been waiting all day, Stats, to get your take on Hunter Brown, who I think has listen, the K-prop's still sitting at 6.5. I expected it to be at least a full strikeout higher against this Rockies team, who is the best matchup for opposing pitchers, specifically right-handed pitchers, and of course, specifically when you get the Rockies outside of Coors Field. Brown, though, he's been under 10% swinging strike rate, kind of a benchmark for pitching in 4 straight starts. Now, the results have still been solid for Hunter Brown, but hasn't looked quite the same recently than he did early in the season. Still has been pretty solid. And, of course, the matchup at home here doesn't get any better. So a little bit torn on Hunter Brown, what to do with him at 11K. He is 1.5K more expensive than the next most expensive pitcher, which you don't see that very often, especially on a big slate like this one. So you're paying for Hunter Brown. If you want him, I will certainly mix him in. But given the recent relative struggles for Brown, lower on him maybe than I expected to be. Looks like the field's still buying in on Hunter Brown, 30 to 35% ownership on Brown. I get it. I think I'll be under, probably on one of my 5 DraftKings teams. I'll play Hunter Brown, so probably under the field. But listen, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he kind of returned to his normal self. And even if he's not, we've seen much worse pitchers and even less than fully operational Brown rack up the strikeouts against this Rockies team. So certainly some interest in Brown, even if maybe a little bit less in the field. And then Tanner Gordon will go for the Rockies. He's got a 13 ERA when pitching in actually away from home. I just assumed that these numbers were his home numbers, but yeah, 12 innings away from Coors Field, and he's given up 18 earned runs in those outings. Obviously hasn't been great at Coors either. He just looks all around bad to me. Really no business getting big league starts, but that's the Rockies. They don't have other options. So Tanner Gordon gets the mound for the Rockies against a Astros offense that is improving. Added Carlos Correa. He's been good for them. Got Jeremy Pena pretty recently back from injury. Added Jesus Sanchez, who swings a good bat from the left side. And then perhaps most importantly, Yordan Alvarez back in the lineup after months-long absence. Just 4,500 for Alvarez. If you assume he's his normal self, has to be one of the better point per dollar plays on this entire slate. We've seen him be a streaky hitter. Could take him a while to get going, but you have to have interest in Alvarez. I do like the rest of this Astros lineup a bit, given the strength of the matchup. Park's not the best, but Tanner Gordon matchup can, for me at least, outweigh a lot of other factors. Of course, Rockies bullpen among the very worst following Gordon's 4 or 5 innings that he's likely to go. So Astros, I think, are interesting. They are pretty expensive for the guys who want, but could certainly see a big outing, a big game from the Astros bats. Not going to Gordon, obviously. And then, yeah, Brown, I do think is a pretty solid play, even at high ownership. Your thoughts, your stats, Rockies and Astros.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I think it all starts with Hunter Brown, and I think he's the best option on the entire slate, pitching wise. I think the market will probably play out that way. Probably should be the highest owned pitcher tonight. 6.5 Ks, heavy juice to the over, 18.5 on the outs. That is juice to the under. Tanner Gordon, just no interest at all. So I've got Brown kind of by a big margin as the number 1 option tonight. So I'm going to want to get heavy on Brown. That does mean having to maybe take some cheaper pitching to kind of offset that. And, I do like Manaea, as we talked about earlier. So he's going to probably get bumped up a little bit for me to put a little bit more Manaea in there. A little dangerous against that Philly lineup. There's not a ton of really cheap pitching outside of like under 8K pitching that I really like. So, I'm going to have to rely on Manaea, Bassett, Kikuchi to kind of maybe pair up with Brown to get some of the more expensive bats in there. But I think Brown is an absolute must. Certainly the best, the highest floor that you're going to have on this entire slate. And I think probably the highest ceiling as well. Maybe only Cease with a better ceiling than Brown has tonight. So I like Brown quite a bit. As far as the offenses go, obviously no interest in Colorado bats, but the Houston stacks I think are really, really strong. I like just about every bat in this lineup outside of Dubon. Alvarez, as you mentioned, is coming back. He's one of my favorite plays. I don't really mind. Like, to me, when guys are in the lineup, then I just assume that they're healthy and they're ready to go. So I'll be playing Yordan. I like these Houston stacks, 5-man stacks, secondary stacks, any way you want to play it. They've got a good mix of power, and then we've got some of the guys. Sanchez has some speed, and Altuve's got some speed. Pena with some speed. So we get a little pop and speed with this lineup. I love them in 5-man stacks. It's going to be one of my overall between Brown and Houston stacks will be pretty popular for me tonight.
Yeah, good information here. Yordan did look good in his AA games. And like you said, in general in baseball, you're in the lineup. You just kind of assume that you're operating at your normal high level. So, Yordan is at least 1K underpriced if he is normal Yordan Alvarez, maybe even higher than that, especially given the matchup. Certainly going to be a strong play. Looks like is that the highest owned bat on the whole slate? Yordan Alvarez looks like it. Yeah. Sabres got him projected as the highest owned hitter. makes sense to me. You're getting a huge discount on Alvarez in a good stack, in a good matchup, but just know the field will be with you on the Yordan Alvarez love. Let's get to the West Coast here. We've got San Diego and Seattle up next. This will play like yesterday, more hitter-friendly than it typically does with warm weathers and the roof open in Seattle. Two pretty good pitchers going here. Dylan Cease, kind of reminds me of a right-handed Kikuchi, high upside arm, typically going to go fairly deep into the games, a lot of strikeouts. More, I think, disappointing outings from Cease than maybe he gets docked for. He's someone that I do like to be lower than the field on Cease when he's popular. He will be tonight, coming in at around 20%. I still like him, though, at that number and a $9,300 price tag. Again, significant discount from Hunter Brown, $1,700 if you're trying to fit in an extra bat or get in your preferred stack, something like that. No problem going from Brown to Cease myself. And then Luis Castillo, not the pitcher he once was, for sure, coming off two bad outings, but both of those were on the road against Philly, against the New York Mets. He does return home here where he has been, frankly, really, really good all season, has Castillo when pitching in Seattle, but gets this Padres lineup. Again, they're very similar to the Blue Jays in that they lack a little bit of power, but they make a ton of contact, which makes playing pitchers against them usually a losing proposition. I think that'll be the case tonight. I'm not in on Castillo here. Interest in Cease. And then, I don't know. Padres bats look okay to me, but I do think there's a lot of better spots than them. So mostly out on everything in this game, honestly, except for Dylan Cease. Where do you stand stats with the Padres and the Mariners?
So Cease is at 6.5 Ks juice to the over, but just 16.5 outs. It is juice to the over. I think that's kind of a byproduct of the fact that he can get some strikeouts, but he's also prone to walk guys. So that's, I think, the danger here with Cease. I've got him as the second best option, and it's pretty far margin behind Brown as the number 2 choice. So I will definitely have some Cease in there. Good pitchers ballpark. But I don't know. I'm going to probably want to get a little bit heavier on Brown, which means I'm going to probably be a little bit under where the market comes in at Cease. If I could get to 20, I still think that's going to be under the market on Cease. Maybe I'd be in the high teens, somewhere in that neighborhood. Castillo, just really no interest for me here. He's the 13th ranked pitcher on my model. So, but then offensively, like you said, maybe you like a couple of San Diego bats, Tatis, Machado, whatever, but there's just so many better options and better ballparks that I can't get. I can't really get in too much on these bats. I always like kind of taking Seattle as a contrarian play with the home run bats that they have, but not here tonight. Just don't like this lineup. Don't like the home run potential in this ballpark. So I'm going to be passing on pretty much the bats entirely on this game. But it's just a matter of how much Cease to get to. I think that's the question that you come on. So if you're going to go heavy Brown, I think you're probably just going to be a little bit less Cease. If you just don't have the confidence or you don't want to pay the 11K, then I think Cease is your next best option. And then I think you're going to have to be over the market on either Brown or Cease, and you got to have to take your pick. For me, it's going to be Brown, but I could get behind Cease. I always question Cease, how deep he's going to get. He's going to have the good control with the strikeouts to be able to get deep into this game. But he does have the potential for the highest K per inning. So if he does keep the walks to a minimum and could get you at least 6 innings, he could easily be the highest scorer on the slate.
Yeah, certainly. Cease has that upside. I'm with you with the bats here. You will get Seattle at almost no ownership, including Camporeale, who just projected for 2% ownership. Again, he'll probably be higher than that number, but it'll be low against Cease. You will get leverage, and I haven't seen the boom report yet, but if it's anything like it usually is, yeah.
No, Raleigh will be a huge he's going to have a huge tournament edge just because he's got the home run potential. But on the whole, I'm not going to touch this one.
Yeah, I usually try to squeeze in a couple of Camporeale one-offs in my lineups. I mean, for obvious reasons. Dude's got 50 home runs at catcher. Just best power hitter in the game right now, and he plays the worst position, and nobody going to play him. Leverage against Cease. Going to try to get in some Cal Raleigh for sure. And man, how many times have we seen this Mariners offense disappoint overall, and then Raleigh's got 2 home runs and is a must play at catcher? Happens all the time. Wouldn't shock me if it happened again here at super low ownership against a popular pitcher in Dylan Cease. Out to San Francisco we go. 2 veterans here, right-hander Justin Verlander going for the San Francisco Giants. It's kind of pitched as expected, I think, this year. The strikeouts are down. Kind of getting by, sitting around a 5 ERA. He's actually 1-10 is Mr. Verlander. Don't talk about pitching records here very often, but there you go. And then Matthew Boyd going for the Cubs, coming off a bit of a rough outing against the Brewers. Kind of easy for me to give him a pass in that matchup. But overall, Boyd has actually been excellent all season long. And I do think we're going to get him at pretty low ownership, 10 to 15% it looks like for Boyd. Same for Verlander. I don't really get the Verlander love even at 6,800, but I do have interest in a pretty low-owned Matthew Boyd here. Typically works fairly deep into games, has made it 5+ innings and like 17 straight starts or something has Boyd. Obviously a great place to pitch in San Francisco, and a great matchup too against the Giants offense that really hasn't done much all year long. Lots of strikeouts potentially for Boyd here against this lineup as well. I do think he's one of the better, not cheap and not super low owned, but I'll take 8,700 Boyd on this slate at 10% ownership. Feels like a strong play to me. Bats wise, I'm not going to get to a lot. Elliot Ramos, I do think, is a pretty good play in the leadoff spot, presumably for the Giants. And then I do think you could play a Cubs stack against Verlander, but kind of reaching, I think, to be heavy on these offenses. It's mostly Matthew Boyd here stats that I'm interested in. Your thoughts on Giants and Cubs?
Yeah, so I mean, Verlander's 4.5K, 16.5 outs. Boyd 4.5K, 17.5 outs, which is pretty good. We're just not getting the strikeout numbers really from either one of these guys. Boyd, I have a little bit more interest in. Got him as the 7th best option. I've got Verlander as number 10 overall. Again, it's just a strikeout thing. I think with Boyd, we're just kind of hoping that he could grind out, get deep into this game, and get us, 6 Ks and maybe get to, who knows, if we can get 7 innings and just keep the pitch count down, that would be ideal with the win. I just don't know, I don't know how big of an upside he has here, but I don't think the floor is all that low either. So I think he's got a decent floor. But as far as the bats go, I'm not going to play any of these San Francisco bats. Don't typically like playing too many bats here. But I think Cub bats are in play, like you said. I like pretty much their top options. PCA, Tucker, Suzuki, Bush, and Happ right at the top of the list. You're going to get a little leverage, I think, against the field on those plays, and maybe a little tournament edge. So I'm not totally averse to playing Cubs. Won't be one of my stronger stacks on the night, but I think Cub stacks, if you're going to mix it, certainly in 150, I'm going to have a few. I think they're worth playing. Just not one of my ideal favorite stacks here on the night.
I think if I was playing Cubs, it'd be the full 5-man stack, given the difficulty for power, specifically left-handed power in this park. But yeah, Verlander, very, very hittable, low strikeouts. Cubs, we've seen them come through in worse spots than this. And I think all 9 guys for the Cubs are pretty decent plays here. So a lot of different ways you can mix that stack in. Will be low owned, sub 5% across the board for the Cubs makes sense. And did I hear you right stats? You said Boyd is your 2nd favorite pitcher on this slate?
You did not hear that right.
Yeah, okay. I had to make sure because it didn't sound like that.
Cease is my number 2. No, I've got Boyd as the number 7 option here.
7.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes more sense. Got me all excited there on my Matthew Boyd though, but I guess I'll have to settle for 7th best option. I do still like Boyd, but not quite as much as if he would have been stats as 2nd favorite pitcher on the slate. But unfortunately, not the case. Let's get to these last 2 game stats. We'll go back over pitching stacks and quick pick 6 as well before we get on out of here. But first, Let's talk about Detroit and the A's. This one in Sacramento, as per usual. It will play as the top hitters environment on the slate. Hot, humid, winds blowing out, as always, in Sacramento in the minor league park. Charlie Morton going for the Tigers has actually been pretty good for them for the most part. But when you get veteran pitchers like this, I'm pretty slow to buy into them turning a corner, especially when you're like 42 years old, like Morton is. So I do expect him to come back to earth soon. And frankly, probably tonight against this A's team that obviously has a ton of power. We did see them eventually get to Tarek Skubal, who did get the strikeouts, gave up the big home run to Langoliers. But Morton, he's always kind of been this type of pitcher where the stuff looks good. It can look good for a while, but man, he is very, very prone to big innings where he'll hit batters, walk batters, lose control. And in this park, that could unravel in a hurry. So the A's are near the top of my list, as is the other side of this game in the Detroit Bats, who obviously get the same matchup that the A's get in this park. A's are going with Osvaldo Bido, probably only going to get, 3-4 innings out of him. And then, a pretty rough A's bullpen behind him. So I think you do got to look at these Tigers bats pulling their ownership up now. Yeah, they're going to be, looks like fairly popular, I think, for good reason. Riley Green, Carpenter, Torres, Torkelson, some of the top bats that I'm looking at on the Tigers. And then the A's, kind of the usual suspects. You got to pay for these guys, but Langoliers, Kurtz, Rooker, Soderstrom, all very expensive, but hard to deny how good of a spot they're in, especially if you're not a believer in Charlie Morton like I'm not. Your thoughts, your stats on A's and Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say, I don't think, about pitching. Morton, he's going to miss. He's going to miss for me. I mean, he is a K per inning guy, just over a K per inning. Too many walks. Don't like that in this ballpark where we could get a lot of long balls. So I think on the whole, if you look at both teams combined, this game has the highest potential for home runs, and certainly at the top end, the high end for both of these teams. They are two of the top teams on the entire slate to hit home runs as far as what we have projected here, and with Detroit actually being just behind the Dodgers and the Yankees on the whole for the entire 9, at least what we're projecting for the starting 9 lineup, home run potential. So I really like stacks in this one. Carpenter, Green, Torkelson, Keith. Really, there's just about every Detroit bat in here. I've got no problem with playing. The A's, we'll see what the lineup looks like. A few of the bats down at the bottom. If it's Harris, Wilson in the lineup, then I don't necessarily like those guys, but I still like a lot of these A's bats as well. I think this game probably has the potential for the most fireworks. So I like both sides. I would play 5-man stacks on both sides. We're still waiting on the lineup, so we'll see what that looks like maybe in the next 30 minutes or so. But yeah, this game is strong for me as far as bats go.
I didn't see the chat love for Morton coming. We got Old Man Morton, Jim Morton for the win. Don't sleep on Charlie Morton stats.
I'm
chat
sleeping
thinks
on
we're
him.
missing something. Yeah,
I'm sleeping on him.
Sleeping easy on the Charlie Morton fade. Frankly, not all that concerned either. But we all get to make our own lineups, so I get it. Morton's been pretty good recently, and will have no ownership. But neither me or stats are buying in on ground chuck tonight. Let's get to the last game on the slate. It is the Dodgers and the Cincinnati Reds. Dodgers will go with Clayton Kershaw. He's been okay this season. Has actually pitched deeper into games for the most part than I expected him to. Has made it 6+ innings in 6 of his last 8 starts has Kershaw. Certainly didn't expect that. And the overall numbers do look good for Kershaw, but strikeouts are way down. Hasn't had more than 4 strikeouts in a game in any of those past 7 starts, which of course is a concern for DFS. I think he'll be fine, run-wise, run prevention, but I just don't know if the strikeouts are going to be enough for Kershaw. Pretty good matchup, of course, against the Reds, and no ownership either on Kershaw. So I do think he deserves to be owned higher than that number, but lukewarm on Kershaw overall. No interest in Nick Martinez at 7K. Certainly can play some of these Dodgers bats. I'm guessing, as usual, you'll get high ownership on Ohtani, and one of the highest, it looks like, owned stacks overall. Most of these guys around 10%, or at least the non-pinch hit guys at the bottom of the lineup. So Dodgers look pretty good to me. I do like a couple of other teams better, but certainly no problem with people going to Dodgers bats. Where'd you end up stats with Dodgers and Cincinnati Reds?
Yeah, so I mean, both pitchers for me are just going to be a no. So I don't like Kershaw here at all. 3.5 Ks in the prop market. It's just not going to cut it for me. And then of course I can't play Martinez against this line. I like the bats, and I like the Dodger bats quite a bit. One of my favorite stacks on the entire slate. We'll see what this lineup looks like when it's out. We do have the Cincinnati lineup a little early, but Dodgers, the typical, obviously Ohtani, Teoscar, to get pinch hit, I believe, last night, but bats and Freeman. I mean, the usual suspects, Smith, Pages, all these bats I like. So the Dodgers basically are going to be, if they're not my number one stack, they're going to be close to it. So I like Dodger bats. And Cincinnati, not really as much. So I'm going to kind of pass on the Cincinnati bats. Dodger stacks heavy for me tonight.
Makes sense. That is all 12 games on this slate. Let's jump to pitching. We'll go back over our favorite pitchers here quick. I think we're mostly pretty similar stats. Where'd you end up with your favorite pitching combination on DraftKings?
I'll go Brown and Manaea as the best combo for me here, just to get. I mean, Brown and Cease are my 1 and 2, but I'm gonna try to pay down. Hopefully, we get a good outing here from Manaea.
I don't really remember you mentioning much of any pitcher that you like below Manaea. Is that accurate? He's like
I mean Bassett a little bit. Bassett and Kikuchi. As far as under the price tag, I don't like any of these guys under 7,600. If that's what you're referring to, yeah. Verlander would be my next guy. I just don't like the cheap pitching tonight.
I'm with you. Manaea was the only guy that made my cheap pitching list today. Mostly a day to spend up on pitching. I agree with you. The combination of Brown and Manaea looks good to me. Two guys I will certainly have mixed in, but I'll go with a different combination myself. Kikuchi, I really, really like against Texas. He is my favorite pitcher on this slate. And then I'll go a little contrarian with Matthew Boyd against the Giants in San Francisco like that. So the two lefties, Boyd and Kikuchi, one of my favorite pitching combinations on the slate. Stats, I do think you can go a lot of different ways with stacks tonight. No Coors Field obviously helps a little bit with that. But where'd you end up with your top 3 stacks on the slate?
So for me, the top 3 stacks are going to be Yankees, Tigers, and Dodgers. That's actually kind of like the Angels. The Angels in there too. So, I mean, I just said the Dodgers are going to be my favorite. I'm going to put the Angels in front of the Dodgers. So I'm going to go with the Angels, Yankees, and Detroit. So, but I'm going to be heavy on just a few of these stacks here tonight. Dodgers will be included in that.
Yeah, seems like you're a little bit more condensed than you typically are. Hopefully, leads to a lot of teams up there in that $3,000 DraftKings contest. I'm joining you on the Angels. They are my favorite stack against Patrick Corbin. Very high on them tonight. I'll throw in the other side of that A's game and go with the A's themselves. You're on Tigers. I like those A's bats a lot. They're expensive, but I think worth it against Charlie Morton. And then give me the Astros against what is the name of that Rocky? Tanner Gordon, who I think just really has not a lot to offer. Get the Jordan Alvarez back in the lineup. These guys expensive, but I think worth it tonight against Tanner Gordon and the Rockies bullpen. Bailey over 11 Ks. I hope that doesn't come true. Kind of doubt it, but there you go.
Give me a nice ladder. You got to play that one in the ladder. That'll be a nice hit.
You'll be counting your money afterward if you do come through on that one. So that is all 12 games, pitching stacks. We will jump over to pick 6 now to wrap up this show as I pull it up on the screen share. Where do we want to start, Stats, with our pick 6? We got 5 of 6 last Friday narrowly missed the 6 of 6. Zebby Matthews did not quite get the job done. We'll try to improve by 1 tonight and get all 6. Do you have somewhere you want to start with pick 6?
Yeah, I want to go Mackenzie Gore, and I know I like the Yankees, but I'm going to take him over 15.5 outs. So I'm going to take that outs prop.
All right, Mackenzie Gore over 15.5. They do certainly let him go deep into games, partly because they don't have any better pitchers out of the bullpen to go to. So makes sense with Gore. I'm going to slide over to Kikuchi and go with the strikeouts here. I think when he's at his best, strikeouts are what he can get. 5.5 strikeouts for Kikuchi. I'll take the over here. Stats, your next pick 6 pick.
All right, we'll stick with pitchers. I'm going to go with Nick Martinez under on his player outs of 16.5.
Hard to be against that one. That's a lot of outs for Nick Martinez to get against this Dodgers lineup. So I do like that pick quite a bit. Let's get which offense? We're both on the Yankees, right? I know we're on Gore. But let's see what we got on the Yankees bats here. Home run calls.
You want to do a home run?
Yeah. What about Jazz? 2.9x. Risky.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I know. Yeah, you want the lefty bats here.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. That'll get the multiplier up quite a bit. Jazz to go yard against Gore or that Nationals bullpen. Your up stats for your next pick.
I'm gonna take a lower, less under. Higashioka hits, runs, RBIs to the under. It's 1.5.
I love when you get these just
the random ones. Yeah.
We know you're doing your research stats when you.
It's all numbers based, so we're getting a little bit of an edge on the ones that I give you.
Yeah, stats going with the numbers. And I'm flying by the seat of my pants a little bit more over here. I do like it, though, on Higashioka. Under goes well with the Kikuchi play as well. I will wrap us up here with my last pick, looking over the slate. You know what? I'm going back to probably, anyway, my guy Matt Wallner to go yard. I think he gets another one tonight. Hit 2 yesterday, 2.4x. Against Bassett, who struggles against lefties. We'll go with this.
The home runs, this is going to be a big one.
$10 to win $835. So if this comes through, I'm sure we'll get more people tailing this in the X streets, tweeting us. So hopefully we do well on the pick 6 and the rest of the slate. Big night, I know, for you stats and for a lot of members and people watching the show with big contests across the industry. Lots to get to in the Discord, get our core plays in, answer questions, get our teams set for a fun baseball slate. Appreciate everybody watching. I'll be back, I think, with you tomorrow, Stats. Boyden.
Yeah, I'm back. Doubleheader for me.
Absolutely. Boyden back on Friday, but I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, he's Stats. I'm Draft Cheat. We're out of here.